Today we'll be working on graphing radical functions and inequalities. Now this video is going to be for my regular classes, and remember you can always use the calculator on any problem. So let's start with number 1. 1 through 5, you're supposed to graph them and use a different color for each graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to graph it on the calculator. So let's go y equals, and then y equals square root of x. So I'm going to write this down. Then I'm going to hit graph. As you can see, it looks like a shooting star starting from a point, and this is going to be your end point of the radical. So let's decide on some terms. This point is going to be an end point. It's going to go on forever. So if you go to second graph, you're going to see that you have an error on some parts, and the first number or the first point that you see is 0, 0, 1, 1. Skip the ones that don't make sense and then go to 4, 2, and so on. 4, 2, and then skip 5, 6, 7, and 9, 3. So those are the points that we're going to be working on because they are numbers that we can graph. So let's copy the numbers we just got. So we got 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and 9, 3. That is going to be the table of the first one. I'm going to graph it in red. So 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and then 9, 3. As you can see, it looks like a shooting star, and remember, this is going to be the end point of the radical function. So let's move on to y equals to 2 radical x. So I'm going to type, let me hit second delete. It means I need to insert something. So it's going to be 2 radical x. So and then graph, as you can see, it also looks like a shooting star, and there's the end point. So you go to second graph and you take the points that make sense for you to graph. As you can see, this is an error. It's going to continue to be an error, and 0, 0 is the first number to make sense, so that's going to be your end point. So 0, 0, 1, 2, what else do we have? 4, 4, so let's write them down in blue. So we have 0, 0, let me fix the x and the y, 0, 0, and then you have a 1, 2, 4, 4, so always pick 3 to 4 points, and then those don't make sense. 9, 6, that would be good. Let's graph it in blue. So 0, 0, 1, 2, 4, 4, and then 9, 6. It also looks like a shooting star. And as you can see, since it's multiplied by 2, so what happened to the graph? Remember, when you're multiplying by a number greater than 1, it's a vertical stretch, remember? So let's talk about the domain and range. Let's look at the domain. Now, you always need to know what your endpoint is. So the endpoint is 0, 0. So let me write it down in red. So the endpoint for this number 1 is 0, 0. So the domain is always going to start from the x of your endpoint. So it's going to be from 0. And as you can see, it's a shooting star going to the right. So it's going to be going all the way to plus infinity. Now the range, if it's a shooting star, as you can see, it's going to go up. So it's going to go from the y of your endpoint, so from 0, all the way up to plus infinity. Now go ahead, pause the video, try to find the domain and range for the blue part. Now I hope you tried it on your own. So the domain, let's talk about the endpoint. It's 0, 0, so the domain is going to be from the x to the 0 all the way to plus infinity, since as you can see, your graph is going to go to the right. Now, then the range is going to be from the y of the endpoint, so from 0, this is not clear, it should be a bracket, all the way, as you can see, it goes up like a shooting star, so it's going to be plus infinity. So this is the domain and that's the range. Now let's look at number 3. So I'm gonna go to y equals, I'm gonna put a negative instead of that, or let me put a negative and graph that. As you can see, it's not a shooting star anymore, it's like a reflection of the shooting star. So second graph, take all the points that make sense, see which one starts. So 0, 0 again is going to be your end point. So let's write that. We're going to use the black now. So it's going to be 0, 0. The second point that makes sense is 1, negative 1, 4, negative 2. I'm going to take 3 points this time, or you can continue. 9, let's see, 9, negative 3. So my endpoint is again going to be 0, 0. Then we have 1, negative 1, 4, negative 2, 9, negative 3. It's not a shooting star anymore, it's a reflection of the shooting star because of the negative. So the domain, let's talk about the domain. Let's write the, sorry for that. So let's write the endpoint in front of us. It's 0, 0. The domain will always be from the x of the endpoint, and since it's going to go to the right, so it's going to be from 0 to infinity. Now, the y is going to be from, always from the y of the endpoint, but this time it's not going up like a shooting star. It's going to go down, so it's going to be from the y of the endpoint all the way to negative infinity, so 0 to negative infinity. But remember, we always mention the negative infinity first. So negative infinity to 0, and that would be your range. Now go ahead, try 4 and 5 on your own, graph it, and think of the domain and range. Now I hope you tried, so I'm going to go to y equals, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press second x squared. Let me delete, clear everything. So second x squared, x plus 4. And then I'm going to hit graph. As you can see, it's a shooting star. It's moved to the left, and it does make sense. Usually when you add a 4 to the x, it's always opposite to what you expect. So it's going to go to the left 4. So plus 4 means left 4. So I'm going to go to second table and take all the points that make sense. So let's see, oh, there's an error. So my endpoint is going to be negative 4, 0. So I'm going to write it here, so it's going to help me with my domain and range. And I'm going to start my table, so negative 4, 0, negative 3, 1, then 0, 2, what else makes sense? 5, 3. Those are good points to work with. So let's graph them. I'm going to use the green color with this one, green. So negative 4, 0, that's going to be my point, negative 4, 0, negative 3, negative 1, zero, 2, and then let me do it again. So it's negative 4, 0, negative 3, 1, and 0, 2. I'm gonna just stick to those 3 points. It's not very good. So it's gonna go through those points. As you can see, it looks like a shooting star. It looks like a shooting star, and that's gonna be my endpoint. So negative 4, 0. So let's see, what is the domain? Let me erase that. So what happened? So I'm gonna take the point again. It's negative 4, 0. The domains, if you graph it, as you can see, it's gonna go to the right. So it's gonna be from the x of the domain, the x of your endpoint, negative 4 to plus infinity. And since it's a shooting star, so it's gonna be from the y of your endpoint all the way to plus infinity. Now let's move on to number 5. Again, go ahead, graph it. So it's going to be square root of, let me paste this. So it's going to be second square root of x. Then you move over to stop the radical, and then plus 4. As you can see, the 4 should not be under the radical. Now graph it. As you can see, it went up, and it does make sense. If you're adding a 4 on the outside, it means you're going to go up. So I'm going to go to the second table and get some points from there. Let me see where my end point is. It's going to be 0, 4, so that's a good number to remember. I'm going to use now the purple. So 0, 4, I think, yeah, 0, 4. So let's write down 0, 4, 1, 5. What else? 4, 6, and then 9, 7. So 4, 6, and 9, 7. Now let's use those points to graph it in purple. So it's going to be 0, 4. That's your end point. Then 1, 5. 0, 4. Then 1, 5. Then 4, 6. Then 9, 7. So that's going to be your, let me see, I think I put 8, 7. So 9, 7. So that's going to be your shooting star again. And the domain is going to be from the x of the shooting, from the x of the endpoint, so from 0 to infinity. And from the y, the range is going to be from the y, so 4 to plus infinity, since it's a shooting star. So that is it. As you can see, the domain and range are always going to be to infinity every time it's a shooting star. If it's a reflection like the black one, which is number 3, then it would be, the domain would still be the same, but the range would be from negative infinity to the y of the endpoint. Now I think this is what I want to do with you today, just how to graph rational functions. Now what I want you to do is to go ahead and try number 6 and 7 on the back page on your own.